Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Green Disruptors Scaling the Future. Today, I'm joined by Derrick Emsley, the co-founder and CEO of Tentree and Veritree. Derrick started his entrepreneurial journey at just 15, and since then he's built companies dedicated to restoring ecosystems and making sustainability both scalable and measurable. Tentree, an outdoor apparel brand, has already planted over 100 million trees, and Veritree is the climate tech platform ensuring reforestation projects are transparent, verifiable, and impactful. In this conversation, Derrick shares how businesses can make doing good for the planet also good for business, which we love. Well, thanks for joining us today, Derrick. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Megan.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. So tell us a little bit just about your personal background, and then we'll dive into Veritree.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Derek. I'm the co-founder as CEO here at, we have two companies. So one is called Tentree. It's an outdoor lifestyle apparel business. We plant trees for every product we sell. And then Veritree, which is a climate tech business that we built actually. We spun it out of Tentree, and it's a platform that helps monitor, audit, and verify global reforestation projects, help organizations invest more effectively in those projects.
Yeah. So Tentree's been along much longer than Veritree, is that right?
That is right. Tentrue was founded in 2012, and Veritree officially spun out as a standalone business in 2022.
Okay. So maybe you can give us kind of the background story of how that happened and where you saw kind of the gap in the market and the innovation you guys came up with.
Yeah, absolutely. Going way back, my first company I started was actually, I was 15 years old. My brother and I grew up in Saskatchewan, up here in Canada in the prairies, and it was around the time of Kyoto Protocol and cap and trade and a lot of these different things. And, we wanted to build something that provided a solution in some way to the challenges we were hearing about. And, we said, we were kids, and we thought, well, what takes carbon out of the air? Trees. And, what do we have a lot of is land. And so we came up with the idea of taking farmland that wasn't really productive and planting trees on it and selling carbon offsets. And so we
At
raised a,
15.
yeah, it was, I
That's
grew
kind
up
of
in a,
amazing.
we grew up in a entrepreneurial house. And, I think it was sort of the kind of kick from our parents to say, hey, try something. Like, there's
I
nothing to
love that.
lose when you're 15. And
Hmm.
we were really fortunate. We raised over $2 million from a number of different companies that basically saw this as a potential pilot for what could maybe scale to be a sustainable source of offsets if they needed them. And it was an amazing project. The actual economics didn't really develop because of how the carbon markets evolved and things like that. But it kind of opened our eyes to the impact of tree planting and how excited people could get about it. And so
Yeah.
we left it saying, coming out of university, we said, okay, well, this is a great project. We love doing it. How do we continue to fund reforestation? And so that led us to create Tentree, and the idea was, let's build a consumer brand that allows us to fund tree planting. And we were kind of agnostic as to what the product would be. It was
Right.
easy at that time to buy American Apparel t-shirts and slap a logo on it. And so that kind of became the product. And, in hindsight, there's a lot easier ways to plant trees than building an apparel business, but it was an amazing
From a retail
experience.
family, I can tell you the challenges there. So that's
Yeah.
I hear you.
It, Well, but it has been such an amazing experience because we've sold tens of millions of units and planted well over 100 million trees now. And it it was an experience in starting a business, seeing the impact and the excitement of people when they recognize that the product is actually doing something good in the world. I think you look at the world of sustainability, particularly in consumer oriented products, and a lot of the storytelling is around, hey, this product it has less of a negative impact. And for us, we kind of flipped that narrative and said, actually, this product is having a positive impact. And we spent the last over decade kind of learning about how to source sustainably and, create really amazing marketing and everything around that. But really at its core, the brand exists to plant trees. And so it was an amazing experience. And, over the frankly last 5 years or so, we started to realize though that we were funding millions of dollars worth of reforestation every year, and we just weren't able to verify that it was actually happening to a high degree of efficacy. You see hundreds of companies claiming that trees have been planted for some sort of consumer interaction, some sort of sale,
Right.
and nobody really knows if it's happening or not. And frankly, is the person that was on the company side of that, I felt like we were doing some of the verification. We were traveling to these sites, we were visiting the projects, but like to actually confirm that if I say a tree is planted, it actually got planted was a really big challenge for us. And so we started to build a technology internally. That technology ultimately became Veritree, and we started getting approached by other companies that were facing that same issue. And back in 2022, we were approached by Samsung, who wanted to invest in restoration work and were looking for it to ensure it was auditable and verified. And so we partnered with them, and ever since then, it's been an exciting kind of journey of helping other companies to invest in restoration work in a higher integrity way. And the way I kind of view it is we started with a tree farm. Tentree allowed us to fund thousands of tree farms, and Veritree is allowing us to create thousands of Tentrees.
Very cool. So, in the Veritree side of thing, like what kind of partnerships are you looking for? Like, who's the ideal business partner there?
I think for us, we look at it from the standpoint of any organization that can derive value from connecting consumer interactions, connecting their brand in some way to doing something good for our planet. And so it's a pretty wide, a wide swath of companies that could potentially claim. And so for us, what we found is that there's thousands of companies that are planting trees already, whether it be, buy one, plant one type narratives, or, some other sort of interaction with their customer or their own sort of messaging. And those organizations want to make sure that if they're funding it, it's actually creating outcomes. And trees are sort of the input in what should hopefully become a forest. And being able to manage that entire process is really hard. And so I think for us, we sort of view it as there's any company can really derive value from the messaging and ingraining some sort of doing good for our planet into their brand, but it really has to be done the right way. And so we're focused on finding brands that are either already doing it and looking
Okay.
to make sure it's done in a higher integrity way, or supporting companies that are thinking about how they can make a positive impact and want to find a way to do it in a scalable.
Yeah. I'm curious what some of the feedback is that you get from these partnerships. Like, what do they say that their customers want, and how is it helping their messaging?
You look at the world of climate and environmental messaging, and I think for years it was very much focused on, frankly, as the consumer, how do you do less harm? And it's
Yeah.
it's saying like, okay, buy this product because the product you were buying is bad. And so this one is slightly better. And frankly, as a consumer, it's really hard to for that to be a really motivating message. You look at the conversation around things like carbon footprint. Not only is that saying like you as an individual create a negative impact on the planet, but you should also consider trying to reduce it. And again, it's hard for an individual
Overwhelming.
to sort of think about how they can actually make an impact. And it's this sort of ephemeral thing, carbon. On the flip side, trees are really like they're symbolic, they're tangible, they're impactful. And so for us, it's what we often hear from our customers is that by connecting their own customers with the messaging, and really making it tangible, meaningful, and making the customer feel like they are the hero to some extent in that narrative, not necessarily the villain. It can really create incredible sort of lift for the brands, opportunities to connect with their customers in new ways, and really just drive meaningful engagement.
Yeah, I love that shift to the hero because I think that's true about human psychology. Like everybody wants to be the hero of their own story. And I'm sure you've heard the caveat like it's better to give than to receive. So it's like
Yeah,
if you can
absolutely.
create a consumer product that kind of gives you the dopamine hit of both of those ends, like that can only be good. So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool.
I mean, Tentree for us has been this kind of sandbox and testing ground for over a decade now of proving that there actually is meaningful ways that you can embed reforestation and tree planting into our customer journey in a way that isn't just good for the planet, it's also good for business. And by
Hmm.
being good for business, it's because the customer is seeing value in it. We're able to acquire customers in different ways than we otherwise would if we didn't have that sort of narrative. We're able to, frankly, you know, embed the, different messaging that drives higher lifetime value and retention of our customers because we have another reason to talk to them rather than, hey, come back and buy more stuff. It's, hey, here's some updates on the reforestation project that you supported. And here's some of the impact you had as an individual. And so it's about ingraining your brand into sort of a more values based connection with your customer than purely transactional.
Yeah. So, what does that look like on your end in terms of the way that you form partnerships with businesses? Like, how do you find the right fits? How do you initiate conversations with them?
Well, I would say about half of our customers come to us, new customers specifically. The other half tend to be split in some way between, the referral kind of world. We have some team members that are looking for businesses that are already doing initiatives and just trying to have conversations with them about, what we're up to and if it could potentially be a fit. And then also, having opportunities as founders to sort of speak and talk about the learnings and things like that. So what we're finding is we tend to have customers coming to us in about half those cases, and the other half where we're kind of doing some form of outbound. And in a lot of cases, what we're seeing is they're brands that are looking to either manage it's a project and something that they've already implemented into their brand, and so it's about risk mitigation, it's about consistency, it's about ensuring that it's done to a high degree of quality. And the other organizations, they're often coming to us and because they're looking to either elevate their brand, do something that connects with the consumer in a different way, and they want to make sure that it's done correctly. And so for us it's a pretty wide approach that we're taking with our existing customers or with new customers and how they're finding us.
Yeah. So, kind of, if you could, can you give us a picture of kind of where you're at right now and what your goals are, maybe in the next 6 months to a year?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have, so since we launched Veritree, and sort of as its own standalone business, we've grown to about 300 to 350 business partners that we're working with. A number of those business partners actually act in some ways as kind of like vertical distributors for us.
Yeah.
So we act as kind of the infrastructure behind these products that people embed into, hospitality space, travel, e-commerce, things like that. So we're actually through our 300 and some business partners working with about 20,000 businesses in some way to
Makes
embed
sense. Yeah.
restoration. Our big goal is we want to plant 1 billion trees and we want to embed nature in over 100,000 businesses. So for us right now, over the next 6 to 12 months, our objective is to continue to scale out partner network of high quality restoration projects and opportunities and deploying our technology in an impactful way, and then finding more businesses that can get real positive ROI from
Yeah.
reforestation. And so we're, the business is expecting to, roughly double this year. And our goal is to kind of put ourselves on that trajectory to do that again next year.
Amazing. So what do you foresee or what are you experiencing in that as a either a current bottleneck or maybe a potential one?
For us, a lot of the things that we keep us up at night are the ability to deliver high quality impact. And so what we're seeing is that in some cases, demand for that type of impact actually outpaces our ability
Mm,
to identify and supply it. So what we've been working a lot on is the partner side of our network, the partner side of our platform, because at its core, Veritree, it sort of acts as the connective tissue between the organizations that want to invest and they need visualization, they need reporting, they need evidence, and then the supply side, where there's organizations that can deliver amazing work, but they can't access funding, they don't have the technology to verify and audit that work. So what we're seeing is where we're spending a lot of our time is how can we build our technology in a way that allows us to spin up projects quicker, actually get the funding to the projects and scale them at a more rapid rate, and ensure that our technology is able to basically collect, verify, and audit the evidence that's coming in even faster. If you just look at last year, in the first half of the year, we collected about 30,000 pieces of evidence through our platform to support, everything from photos from the field and socioeconomic surveys and things like that. Already this year, we've well over doubled that. And the quality of the evidence is also getting significantly higher and more granular. We're including measurements. We've built computer vision models and things like that to actually audit whether it's living, dead, or dormant trees in the field and things like that. So it's about how we can build our supply side and really scale the impact of these projects faster, but doing it in a really high integrity way. Because at the end of the day, it's like we're still, no matter what, talking about the first step in what's a long process to actually restore an ecosystem. We're talking in a lot of cases about the tree. That's just step one. So how can we make sure that we're doing that in a high integrity way?
yeah, you can't just slap something together at the last minute. So I guess on that same vein, like what's the how do you solve that? That's tricky. Like bringing on the right partners at the right time. Like what kinds of things are you doing to solve that?
So it ultimately comes down to just every day kind of showing up and trying to solve problems through the technology that we're building. I think if you look at the journey over the last 3 to 5 years, it's really been about kind of continually taking one step after the other and identifying challenges that we're facing in the field and trying to build. Interesting and sort of creative ways to solve it. I remember back in the day, we would ask for, a few photos to support 100 trees or 1,000 trees getting planted, and we were told that that was impossible, and that level of like evidence collection wasn't sustainable. It wasn't doable, and so I think our approach has been to say like there's a lot of commonly or sort of held beliefs in restoration that you can't do some of these things, and I in a lot of cases believe that that belief has led to poorer outcomes in these projects, because the evidence we collect in the first couple years is the most critical thing to do to actually ensure that that project delivers outcomes in the future. So it's been everything from building AI computer vision models to actually audit the evidence faster. It's been making the application in the field more intuitive so that we're able to collect evidence in the field, different types of evidence from walking paths, videos, permanent points, photos, evidence, measurements, and point clouds and things like that. And really just continuing to evolve our ability to collect more evidence, and then actually as we collect more evidence, audit and use that evidence so that it's not just data that we're collecting and not
Right.
actually utilizing. So every day it's solving the next problem, the next problem,
Yeah.
the one
That's
after
really all
that.
you can do.
Yeah.
How big's the team right now?
The Veritree team specifically is about 65 people,
Yeah,
probably reach somewhere close to 80 by the end of this year. We've got, I think another 7 or 8 roles already that are currently in hiring mode.
very cool. Well, what are you the most, I mean, the goal of planting a billion trees, like that's a great reason to get up in the morning, but maybe what are you the most excited about despite, the crazy politics of the world and all the things, like what are you feeling confident about in your ability to make an impact?
I think the conversation on tree planting as a whole has, I think in like a lot of the conversations in the ESG space has kind of oscillated from it's a silver bullet to it's a hoax to maybe it's a part of the solution to does it actually have any real impact,
Hmm.
kind of back and forth. It's this pendulum that keeps happening. And I think you see it in a lot of cases with just about every conversation in carbon, climate, ESG. For us, we've seen and we know that tree planting has an impact, a real world impact, both from a job creation, food security, poverty alleviation, and environmental standpoint. So I think like my view is tree planting and restoration work in itself has an incredible impact, whether in whatever way the carbon or the climate conversation goes, which has been in a lot of cases really challenging. The
Yeah.
thing for us has been how do we connect that impact to real world impact for businesses? And what we continue to see over and over, which is really exciting for us, is that businesses continue to see positive ROI, real world examples of how tree planting has helped their business solve challenges that they're facing. And so we still feel incredibly bullish that through all the noise, through all the challenges that ESG is going to continue to go through in a lot of cases, that the conversation on nature and its ability to have real world impact for both the businesses and the people on the ground continues to persist. And so, what gets us excited and gets us up in the morning is just continuing to find ways to scale that.
Yeah. I think I think it's got to be a little bit easier than some other areas of, carbon removal or whatever the technology is. It's like when it comes down to it, people love trees. We have a relationship with trees. And so like you tell anyone about a tree planting, it's like I don't foresee anyone having a negative thought about that. It's like, yeah, seems like an obvious choice.
Yeah, in a lot of cases, like our view is nature's not political.
Yeah.
I think also in our experience building businesses, our approach to climate and restoration and all the work we've done has always been to try to avoid the landmines that come with trying to
Yeah.
build a political narrative around it, because that isn't for
It's not
us the
really
world
helpful.
that we have to play in. The reality is whatever side of the aisle you're on, you believe that more nature is better than less nature. You probably have some sort of emotional connection to
Yeah.
nature, and so our ability to continue to show that by doing good for the planet can also be good for business in some way and not make it a political discussion has really been a focus area for us.
Yeah. Smart. Well, I think we could probably wrap up with, I mean, you may or may not have this, but do you have any world examples of actually ROI scenarios for people that you've been partnered with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Tentree is an easy one because
Oh
Tentree
yeah.
itself exists to plant trees. And, we've seen ways that by embedding tree planting at different steps of the customer journey for Tentree, it has created real positive ROI for the business. So things like adding, offering customers the opportunity to plant more trees and, subscribe and plant trees and things like that has been really interesting kind of value driver for the business in a way. We've also though seen that same ability translate to other businesses in the e-commerce space where, by adding trees at different steps of the customer journey, they actually see cart checkouts improve. They see different
Have
different
higher average order
conversion
value and
metrics.
stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. And so like real world value where like that change in conversion has actually driven more value for the business than the cost associated with the tree planting, which for us is really important because it allows the organization to invest more in the restoration work or telling the story. We've seen it in areas like hospitality where we partner with a number of hotels to give them a reason to talk about opting out of room cleanings. Room cleaning can cost $10 to $15 per room for a hotel. And what we built was a package around saying, here's the environmental impact of not cleaning your room, and we're celebrating that decision through planting trees somewhere local to the hotel. And what we see is that the ROI for those hotels, just because the uptick in room cleaning opt outs is up to 4 or 5 to 1 for the
Wow.
investment they'll make
That's
in
amazing.
reforestation. So we have, 20, 30 different examples of those exact types of ROI positive investment examples.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, that's not surprising to hear, but I think it is nice for people to have concrete examples. Well, Derrick, this has been a pleasure. I admire the work that you're doing and love to see the different ways that many different business types can implement this. And I hope you get to your billion tree mark ASAP.
Thanks, Megan. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Okay, my pleasure. That was Derrick Emsley, co-founder and CEO of Tentree and Veritree. I loved hearing how his companies are reshaping the way businesses think about sustainability, proving that planting trees isn't just good for the planet, it's a smart business decision too. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and as always, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.